In his classic work, The 30-Day Mental Diet, Willis Kinnear wrote this: "For the most part, you, no doubt, have denied yourself the very things you want the most. You have let your thoughts dwell on the things that you don't want rather than on what you do want, with the result that you have experienced what you have feared the most." I love that statement. Focusing on what you don't want. How many times have you allowed what you don't want to govern your choices and decisions? Have you avoided dating because you don't want to be hurt again? Have you chosen not to leave a work experience where you are miserable because you don't want to be without a job? This is what I call running away from what you want. When your mind is focused on staying away or running away from one thing, what happens is you are not free to pursue what you actually desire. You cannot move toward what you desire because you are consciously and subconsciously focusing on the negative past rather than a positive possibility. What many of us do not realize is whenever you are engaged in the running away from process, you meet what you don't want on the road to running away from it. These are the things that we call failures, mistakes, and repetitive experience, because what you focus on grows. This happens even when you don't realize you're focusing on it because you're so busy trying to get away from it. You're going to meet it on the road that you're running away from it on. Now, we established in lesson 2 that every thought has a feeling attached to it, and every feeling has a charge, and that charge is either positive or negative. When you have an experience that gives rise to a thought, and that thought gives rise to a feeling, the charge is registered in your physical and your cellular being, and it stays there until you alter it or change it. Since 90% of what we experience as adults has its roots in our childhood, that is where we must begin. We've got to go back and look at the roots that were planted when we were children. So let's say you grew up in a family where there was a lot of yelling and screaming, or to the contrary, where people didn't talk to each other much. As a child, you had no way of understanding what this meant or what was really going on. And if you were like most children, you probably made something up. And chances are, whatever you made up, it was all about you. Children are very self-centered, you know. They really do believe that the entire world that they know centers on and is all about them. They believe that they should be able to fix the problems, change the people, and make everything better for everyone. And if they cannot fix or change what is going on, they take it on as a statement of who they are and what they can and cannot do. I know that's what I did. And if you add to this the things that the caregivers say or do not say, do or do not do, to help children navigate and understand the environment, you will see that we have an absolute formula for disaster. Let me tell you my story. You know, I do love to tell a story. I grew up in a household that I now call Friday night fights. Every Friday night, the adults in my home would get inebriated and fight. In other words, they would get drunk and have drunken brawls. Today it's called domestic violence. And then as an adult, I spent 9 years in an abusive marriage, the very thing I did not want, because I grew up with an unconscious belief that it was normal and a judgment about the people who demonstrated this behavior to me. I had a host of negatively charged feelings about myself, about relationships, about home, and about what to expect from all of this. Now, as a child, money was always an issue in my home. I was denied many things and many experiences because we couldn't afford it. Much of my adult life, money was an issue. Never having enough, not knowing what to do with the money I did have, and a great deal of resentment about what I could and couldn't do because of the lack of money. Here's the piece that I want you to get. I wanted to run away from these experiences that I had as a child, and what I did, ran headfirst right into them. And it took me many, many years to realize that as an adult, I was running into many of the things that I did not want, many of my childhood experiences, the very things that I wanted to get away from, because my mind was preoccupied with those thoughts that were rooted in the past, and my body was filled with negatively charged feelings and energy. As a result, I was making choices and decisions, poor choices and bad decisions, in response to what was going on inside of me, what I was running away from, rather than what was actually possible in the world around me. Oh my God. OMG. OMG. You mean I'm responsible for the mess in my life? Absolutely I was. Not blaming myself, but I was responsible because they were my thoughts, my feelings, my beliefs, my judgments. Here's the bottom line. Many of us have had difficult, even traumatic childhood experiences. Even more of us have had poor examples and demonstrations of how to navigate and move through life, capturing all the goodness that is available, using the greatness that we have within us to create what we desire. It is easy to blame being abused or adopted or violated as the reason or excuse for why we are who we are, where we are, and why we do what we do. It is normal to point the finger at our parents, our caregiver, the circumstances and situations in which we were raised. But that is the easy way out. The more empowering way, the more responsible way, the adult way to stand fully in your greatness and nobility, using the inherent divine power that you were born with, is to clear your mind and clear your heart of the past, and to take total, complete, absolute responsibility for the choices we make and have made in every single aspect of our life. I had to do it. And what I've learned about this, and what I absolutely believe is true with every fiber of my being, is the only way to be free from the past and to free yourself from the memories without running away from them is to forgive yourself and everyone and everything totally and unconditionally. Totally and unconditionally. Forgiving yourself is not easy. It's just not easy. In fact, forgiving you is probably more difficult than forgiving other people. Why? Because the child within is still alive and still believes it should have known better, done more to fix what was going on in its environment. Forgiving yourself means acknowledging that you did not know, could not have known, and could not do more, nor was it your responsibility at the time. You know, there comes a moment when you simply must choose to forgive yourself. Like forgiving others, it doesn't excuse or justify your bad behavior. All of us have had bad behavior. We've all had those days when we were less than our greatest self. But you just have to choose to let yourself off the hook. Forgiving yourself means that you're open to a new level of awareness, that you desire a deeper understanding of yourself and the world around you, and that you're open to greater possibilities than the ones that you've previously known. Forgiving yourself means that you're saying no more to suffering, to sorrow, guilt, shame, fear, and the diminishing self-talk that's perpetrated by your negative ego. Forgiving yourself means saying, the struggle is over. Enough. I'm done. I'm ready to move on toward what I want as opposed to away from what you don't want. Forgiving yourself is the way you practice compassion, the way you embrace responsibility, and the way you hold yourself accountable to yourself for your choices and decisions, which you cannot do when you've got a 6-year-old alive inside of you, guiding you every moment because you think it's your responsibility to fix and change everyone else. Until and unless you become willing to forgive yourself for what you have put yourself through because you didn't know any better, you will stay on the path of running away from the past instead of discovering with your eyes wide open the truth of who you are right now. No matter what you have or have not done, no matter how long you've been hurt or angry or lost, you are entitled to and you deserve your own time, energy, and forgiveness. Think of it this way. Somehow, in some way, you may have been wounded or emotionally injured as a child or even as an adult. Now, in the moment of the wounding, of the injury, the universe of life bandaged you from head to toe. Every part of your mental, emotional, and physical being was covered in a white bandage of protection. And the only thing that was exposed were your eyes and your ears. And they were focused on and tuned into what hurt you in the first place. Consider that you have been moving through life in a full body bandage, doing the best you could to navigate, to accomplish, to advance yourself in life. Now, if you saw someone walking down the street, bandaged from head to toe, how would you treat that person? How would you speak to that person? How would you approach that person? Today, I ask you to consider that you have been that person, bandaged from head to toe, moving through life to avoid hurt and injury. Now, with that process in mind, with that image in mind, let us begin the process of compassionate self-forgiveness.